But it has to start with an L, right? Like that would be pretty quick
Oh,
check
I guess,
first.
yeah. But how
Like
many
doesn't start
other
with an L.
ransoms are out there? Like, I think
Yeah, I guess.
some lazy worker just said no.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, but they didn't see any of the money until February 10th, 1980, when an 8-year-old found $5,800 in the sand along the banks of the Columbia River in Vancouver, Washington. And
What?
experts believe that the water washed up there and it hadn't
Oh.
been buried, and 10 bills were missing from one of the stacks.
Hmm.
But, like, they don't. Like, it was all, like, worn like it had washed there, not that someone buried it.
Yeah. Okay. How would it have gotten in the river?
Well,
Where's
I don't.
Vancouver, Washington?
It's north of Portland,
Oh.
right on the border. Um,
Is that the way the river goes?
no. That's
Right,
what
so he
doesn't
had
make
to be.
sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Like, right, they don't think it washed up there. And, like, I saw somewhere that basically there were, like, pollen particles on the money that proved that it didn't get put there until, like, months after he would have jumped. So it's not like he jumped. It's not like he threw it out of the plane or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um so from the beginning of their investigation, the FBI was skeptical about Cooper's chances and speculated that he didn't survive the jump, and the FBI provided several reasons and facts to support their conclusion. But his apparent lack of skydiving experience and unfamiliarity with parachutes, lack of proper equipment for his jump and survival, and the inclement weather on the night of the hijacking, and the wooded terrain into which he jumped, his lack of knowledge of his landing area, and the unused, like, he never used the money.
Mhm.
So did he
Yeah,
die? But how did they not find him? Like, they would have found, by now someone would have found his parachute hung up in a tree or something. Like,
right.
parachutes are big.
Yeah. I feel like you definitely see that by now.
Yeah. So, at first, Cooper appeared to lack the necessary skydiving knowledge, skills, and experience for that type of jump he attempted. And he said, we originally thought Cooper was an unexperienced jumper, perhaps even, or was an experienced jumper, perhaps even a paratrooper. We concluded after a few years that this was simply not true. No experienced parachutist would have jumped into the pitch black night in the rain with a 172-mile-per-hour wind and his face wearing loafers and a trench coat. It's simply too risky.
That's true. He's wearing a trench coat. I forgot about that. I also
Yeah.
forgot it was raining.
I don't think I mentioned it was raining, but it was
Okay.
raining.
Yeah, that does not seem like
Or he's just
he.
really he's just really confident in himself.
But do parachutes work well in the rain?
That's a good question.
I feel like in the wind and rain it would get like twisted up easier and then
Right. And
you
the one he
wouldn't.
had, you couldn't, like, steer.
Oh, well, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's not looking good now if he survived.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. A skydiving instructor who supplied the parachutes testified that he did not need extensive experience to survive the jump, and anyone who had even 6 or 7 practice jumps could accomplish it.
Hmm.
But he also noted jumping at night drastically increased the risk of injury, and without jump boots, he would have suffered severe ankle or leg injuries upon landing.
Yeah, break his ankle or something.
What the fuck do jump boots look like?
I don't know. I'm
Now I'm
assuming
looking.
like similar to snow boots,
Parachute.
like the way they look.
Um, they look like army boots.
Yeah.
It probably just
What was he
supports your
wearing?
leg.
Loafers?
Yeah, loafers.
Yeah, he probably broke his ankle at least.
Yeah. He also did not appear to have the equipment necessary for either his jump or his survival in the wilderness. He failed to bring or request a helmet and jumped into a 15-degree Fahrenheit wind at 10,000 feet in November over Washington state with nothing to protect him against the extreme wind chill.
Yeah, that's true.
And the contents of his, he had a 4 by 12 by 14 paper bag with him too, but it said that he did not use any of the contents to assist him during any part of the hijacking, so they suspected that the bag contained items he needed for his jump, like boots, gloves, and goggles. And he
Oh,
also did not appear to have an accomplice on the ground.
could boots fit in a 12 by 14 by 4 bag?
I don't
I
think so.
guess. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I guess he could have had stuff in there to help him.
Right, at least gloves and goggles? I don't know.
I would, yeah, I feel like he needs goggles. It's raining. Like, how would he wouldn't be able to see anything with the wind
Right.
if
Oh
he
my
didn't have goggles
god.
at
Yeah, his
least.
poor eyeballs. It's
Right.
freezing, it's raining, and it's black.
And the wind.
Yeah, you're just jumping into like,
Void.
yeah, literally the void.
I don't know if he survived.
Yeah, now I'm thinking maybe he didn't. Um, and there's no way he could have had an accomplice because it would have to be like precisely timed.
Oh, yeah.
And like they'd have to follow a predetermined flight path, but he did not give the flight crew a specific path. And the flight crew proposed and he agreed to alter the flight path and fly from Seattle to Reno for refueling, so he had no way of keeping an accomplice like up to date on his changed plans.
Yeah.
And the
That makes
low
sense.
cloud cover and visibility to the ground made it even worse, like harder to determine his location or establish a bearing or see his landing zone. Like he just jumped.
Right, into the woods,
Yeah. They
into
think he landed
trees.
near Mount St. Helens though.
Oh, okay. Is that like not woods then?
It
Like,
is definitely woods.
okay. I can't imagine landing into trees.
And maybe he got hung up in a tree. Maybe he's literally just out there.
And no one's found him still?
I don't know how wide, like how wilderness is it? That's not proper English, but
But I would think people hike around there and stuff.
they do a lot.
Yeah, and I'd think
So,
you'd find at least like fabric, like from the parachute or something.
right. You're
I
right.
don't know.
And the fact that the ransom money was never spent and the recovered portion was found unused, like it just kind of all points to the fact that he probably didn't survive.
Yeah,
Some people think he had hypothermia, and some people think he landed in the river and drowned, which would explain how no one ever found him.
right. Yeah, that's true. I don't think he survived.
I
Now
don't
that
either. And a senior FBI agent anonymously opined in a 1976 article in the Seattle Times and said, "I think he made it. I think he slept in his own bed that night. It was a clear night. A lot of the country is pretty flat. He could have just walked out right down the road. Hell, they weren't even looking for him there at the time. They thought he was somewhere else. He could have just walked down the road."
it wasn't a clear night.
I don't know what that meant.
I
Because
thought it
it
was
said
raining.
rain, yeah.
Yeah. I
But
don't know about this
depends on
guy.
where he jumped from. He could have made
Oh,
it seem like he jumped at any point.
right. I guess it wasn't raining the whole time.
Right. And he, like, who's to say he didn't jump over northern Nevada right
But then
before?
how did the money get to the Columbia River?
That's a good point.
Unless he threw out some of the money.
He could have.
Right, and then waited.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he survived. I'm changing my mind.
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and conclusive evidence of his death has also not been found. 5 people attempted copycat hijackings in the months after this, and all 5 survived their parachute escapes.
Hmm.
The survival of the copycat, several of whom first faced circumstances and conditions similar to Cooper's jump, forced FBI lead case agent Ralph Himmelsbach to reevaluate his opinions and theories regarding his chances of survival, and he cited 3 examples of hijackers who survived in similar conditions, who were Martin McNally, Frederick Hahnemann, and Richard Lapointe.
Never heard of those
I
people.
know, I did not know there were so many hijackings. Why weren't we?
Right.
What?
Well, there's
What?
always copycats.
Right. But there's a whole bunch of information on the copycats that we're not going to talk about because I don't want to talk about it. Um, by 1976, most published legal analyses concurred that the implementing expiration of the statute of limitations for prosecution of the hijacker would make little difference, since the statute's interpretation varies from case to case and from court to court. A prosecutor could argue that Cooper had forfeited legal immunity on several valid technical grounds, and by 1976, a Portland grand jury returned an indictment in absentia against John Doe, aka Dan Cooper, for air piracy in violation of the Hobbs Act, and the indictment formally initiated prosecution to be continued should the hijacker be apprehended at any time in the future. So they basically started a case.
Right. Just in case they find
Yeah.
him. I mean, they're not going to now,
No. But it's kind of
but yeah,
interesting.
that is.
So now we're
They
gonna
thought for sure he'd be found.
yes. Now we're gonna get into a few of the suspects. There's so many. There were like 20 suspects, so I didn't go into them. I just picked the biggest ones. But Theodore Burdett Braden Jr. was a Special Forces commando in the Vietnam War, a master skydiver, and a convicted felon. And he was believed by many within the Special Forces community at the time of the hijacking and years after to have been Cooper. He was born in Ohio and first joined the military at the age of 16. And he served in the 101st Airborne during World War II and was one of the military's leading parachutists, often representing the Army in international skydiving tournaments. And his military record listed him having 911 jumps.
That's a lot.
Yes.
But why would he do it?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
So, in the 60s, he was a team leader for, I don't even know how they say this, but MACVSOG, a classified commando unit of Green Berets, which conducted unconventional warfare operations during the Vietnam War. And he was a skydiving instructor, teaching halo jumping techniques to members of Project Delta. And he was in Vietnam for 23 months. But
That's crazy.
in 1966, he deserted his unit in Vietnam and made his way to the Congo to serve as a mercenary.
Oh, wow.